I turn on the cold shower. I'm looking at the water. The cold practice has already started because my eyes already see the water. And now my brain's starting to process and change, because you know what that's all about, right? Like everything's starting to happen now. So I start breathing in through the nose using my diaphragm and a long exhale out the mouth, which tells your system that you're not in danger, even though the body perceives cold water as a little bit dangerous, because that's how we're wired. And so when we breathe this way, the body's like, how come you're breathing like this? Because we're about to go into an emergency, and we're supposed to run away from a lion. Why are we meditating? What are we doing?
This is StRest. I'm Kerstin Lindquist, health coach, author, and Emmy award-winning TV host. I've committed to helping people reduce stress through impressive health science, attainable mindset change, and biblical truth. Let's have a real conversation with zero judgment and endless solutions that you can use. You aren't alone. You can do this. Let me help you reduce stress and make room for rest.
I'm super into the research right now when it comes to creatine and collagen. In fact, let's talk creatine for a second. And the one that I trust happens to be Ancient Nutrition. Research shows that women naturally have 70 to 80% lower creatine stores than men, which means we're ideal candidates for it. And collagen we know is important not only as a protein, but it's also great for joint health. And I've been feeling the joints a little bit more. I'm in my 40s. I have that cold shoulder women's 40 thing that there's a lot of different things we can do, but it's really important to pump up your collagen. So I'm doing the two together, collagen and creatine, and there's actually a new product from Ancient Nutrition that puts the two of those together. Creatine is one of the most clinically studied supplements, and it's a game changer for women's wellness. It supports cognitive health. That's what I love the most about it. Muscle endurance and recovery, and it helps you build long, lean muscles and strength while staying sharp. And then you pair that with clinically studied collagen, which is what we get from all of our Ancient Nutrition products, and that can help you improve your joint comfort, your mobility, and your recovery. I take it right after a workout in the morning, and I still also love multi-collagen proteins and those peptides in my coffee every morning as well. So support your brain and your body and your beauty every single day with Ancient Nutrition so you can look toned, you can feel strong, and you can stay sharp. Go over to ancientnutrition.com and put in the code STREST25. That's STREST25. STREST25, STREST25 at ancientnutrition.com and get your creatine and your collagen. Marie Bodine, I am so happy to have you here. I am an avid cold therapy, cold plunger. We talk about it all the time on the podcast. People see me on social media, but you were the very first person I've had on to really talk about it and be an expert in this place. So thank you for being here.
It's such an honor to be here. I'm really excited to. I've been listening to quite a few episodes. I love them. So I'm just so excited to hear about what you've been doing with the cold. And I want to add to your practice and also help people understand why this might be something that they might want to try.
Fantastic. Let's go with a little bit of background first. So why are you qualified to talk to us about this? Tell me how you got here.
Okay, so cold is challenging, okay? Like if you had told me 10 years ago that I would be doing this, I would have said, no way ever. No way would I have ever believed that I would be actually practicing cold exposure regularly. Forget about even teaching about it. Forget about even flying around the world, speaking on these topics and presenting and all these other things. Like it's snowballed into something, no pun intended.
No pun.
Totally what I didn't expect. And so I've been in the fitness industry for quite a long time. So I was a personal trainer, and I got into, gyms and arenas with how I explain things and how I facilitate, not necessarily my certifications or my paperwork. And so using the inquisitive parts of my mind and my body, I started to look at life differently. And then I would look at clients and they would ask me questions, and I would show them how I see the world. Like, this is how I do things. And what do you think? And of course, we want to use the parameters of what great exercise physiology is, or sound living, or sound eating, and sound movement, and sound sleep, and all those things. But I think once I started making it my own flavor, that's when things really started to take off. So I never used a limitation as a reason to not try. And so because I found myself in the dead of winter at about 8 years ago, waiting for a bus that never came, and I never wanted to, I just didn't want to be there. I wanted to be anywhere else but where I was. And I just thought, I don't want to live like this anymore. So I started asking questions. I started asking some people how they cold showered. I got a lot of not great information because I was asking people that were not necessarily skilled or educated. And so, interestingly enough, a couple of years after failing painfully quite a few times, and I'm sure maybe the first time that you took a cold shower or maybe an ice bath, it was not the Instagram experience that you see, online. And by the way, when I was doing it, nobody was talking about it. Nobody wanted to do it. Everyone thought I was weird. It was a tiny, lonely community. And I went to a talk and I was listening to someone who was a former drug dealer that got shot like 7 times, and he had
Oh,
nerve damage in his arm. And he went to, it was either Poland or Spain, or he ended up hanging out with Wim Hof and one of my future teachers, Brandon Powell, who's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor. And that helped the pain in his nerve damage arm. It helped modulate the pain. And so he was doing this talk and I was there and we were breathing and I just thought, okay, that's kind of weird. I don't even know what this breathing thing is. And then I saw the Vice documentary that he had talked about and I thought, oh, there's a technique. Oh, there's a person. Oh, there's science. Okay. And then when I read the science, the 2014 endotoxin study, that was it for me because of my physiology background. I just thought this could be huge. And so 7 years later, we see that it's starting to travel around the world. Of course, there have been many ancient cultures and civilizations that have been practicing this for thousands and thousands of years. But in our culture, in the North American culture, it's fell out of favor because we ended up being able to create heat and hot water. And we're all coming back to it now because we're realizing that it's doing more things. And now because we can test the blood and look inside the body and measure it with technology now we can see why it's so great.
there's so many places I want to go because I get
Right.
so excited about this.
Me too.
First and foremost, what does the science say and what do you teach are the benefits of cold exposure?
I'll start with physiologically first, and I'm going to make it really simple because when someone asks me a question like that, I can think of 5 different things I want to say because I get so excited about it. But I want to keep it really simple for today. Physiologically, cold water is a vasoconstrictor. So when we look at what's going on in the health world, we can see right now that 19 million people don't make it to next year because of cardiovascular illness. Cold water is like weights for your veins. You have muscle fibers in all your veins, your arteries, and your capillaries. So we have cardiac tissue, which is why we do cardio. We have skeletal muscle tissue, which is why we lift weights. And we have something called smooth muscle tissue, which is what the cold water acts on very, very well, very, very efficiently. So cold water is one of the most efficient, most easy ways to get all those muscle fibers exercised, and we want vascular elasticity. Like we want this kind of supple vascular system so that our body can respond well to external changes and internal changes. So physiologically, that's one of the most important reasons. Mentally, when we learn how to change our relationship with the outside world, namely cold water, which is a stressor, or you could call it pain. I don't like calling it pain. Like calling it a loud feeling because that's what it feels like. Cold water can
Yeah, it's
feel
very
really
true.
very loud. And that way we don't have to label it to be as anything negative because I consider ice baths kind of like an icy roller coaster. Like it's exciting, it's a little bit scary, and it's over really fast. So when we voluntarily go to these stressful moments, we don't have to wait to understand how to manage stress. We voluntarily go to something that's a little bit friction based so that we can explore how we feel about what we're experiencing, and then we can learn new skills or find the skills that we already have so that we can manage it with some self-love, some self-regard, and we can use it to build more resilience and strength because life is very unpredictable, and this is one of those things that we can use to help modulate fear.
People will say to me, you should never recommend cold plunging or cold exposure because I know somebody who had a heart attack and died when they did it. There seems to be that fear from either social media or out there. How do you respond?
There's definitely people that need to be very careful or even avoidant with cold exposure. And I would say, I like to make jokes sometimes. I'll start with something funny. I'll say like, well, if you've ever taken a handful of ice cubes and put it in your drink, you're already practicing cold exposure.
Yeah.
You actually are. that's fine. But when we take it to an actual full body ice bath, then there has to be a specific level of fitness to be able to put your body under that amount of very short, extreme stress. No one's saying that it's not stressful. It's very, very stressful in the body. It's like doing hill sprints, right? It's like doing very, very, very extreme work. And in short amounts for healthy people that are screened for exercise, because I look at ice baths with the same categories, many of them as exercise,
As do I.
then it's fine. Cold showers, again, even more people can do those things because you're not going to those extremes. But if someone just wants to take a 15, well, we'll do the conversion because we're talking about metric. But if you want to do a 15 Celsius cold shower, there's even more opportunity to do that. And what we're really looking for is we're looking to excite our body and also challenge it in a way that is gentle enough so that we can then move the needle like really gently and really slowly. So sure, there's going to be people that have heart issues that will never do this. Maybe they can do walking, maybe they can do other things that work those systems in a similar way, but I would never say that anything would be great for everybody. Even some people are allergic to garlic, so we have to be mindful of what those limitations are and then work with what we have so that we can create more self-love and more strength in the ways that work for us the best.
Every body is different. Everybody is bio-individual, and you have to do the research and you have to play with what works for you. And I do believe, though, that it can be very beneficial to have temperature dysregulation. We're in a society where we're always at the same temperature, and we know that our bodies need to be challenged in both hot and cold, and we're not doing that these days.
I agree. I think because we have the systems in our body that are meant to experience all these temperatures, we're meant to run, we're meant to move in all directions, we're meant to, most of us, sleep when the sun goes down, we're meant to eat in specific ways, either geographically or culturally. I think the fact that we look at cold as if it's wrong or bad is sort of, we're just missing a piece that, nature exists. And if we put too many barriers in between us and nature, then we're missing out on a lot of innate beauty and innate power.
How do you recommend people start?
Okay, so I love that question. I think it depends on who I'm talking to. So if it's a 6-year-old, because sometimes they love cold showers too, I would say, well, we want to use that with adult supervision always. Always have your, primary caregiver around the whole time, unless it's a sprinkler, because that's what I did when I was younger. We would just turn the sprinkler on in the summertime and run around. And that's cold exposure too, because those tap water can be quite bracing in the summertime. We want to use it for anyone under the age of 18 as play. We don't want to be creating a specific time requirement or a mandatory temperature requirement. And then I would say to the next person outside of children, I would say, well, what's your goal? So we can talk about your goals if we want to, but I think the more information someone gives me, the more accurate of a program or an explanation that I can give somebody, because an athlete would be different than an everyday
Right,
person.
exactly. So it's changed for me over time. It started with this interest in HRV, in helping my HRV, which is heart rate variability. And we want to talk about this at some point too, in linking the breath work with the cold exposure, because I truly believe what it has helped me do the most is react to other stressors better. Because when you put yourself in cold water and you start going like this, in order to be able to learn how to breathe through something that big of a stress, then you'll learn how to breathe through any stress, a bad email, a conversation with somebody, the loss of a loved one. So it started like that for me. Then it went to, and then I started liking it, which I'm you, Marie. I despise the cold. I despise cold weather. I should be on a beach on an island 24/7, but something about cold exposure just gets to me. I like it. I like the feeling of peace and calm and clarity after that initial. Then I had endometriosis unknowingly. I had cysts, and I started researching it and using it for inflammation and for pain relief for those cysts. Since endometriosis is gone, I'm doing great, but I continue to use it also for inflammation, for sleep, all of these things.
You said a lot there too, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that when we start to understand that we can build tolerance to almost anything in a healthy way, and that's what I think, there's a lot of people that really try to power through a day using quiet force, but not using love and self care or positive self-regard. And so when I see a lot of people or some of my clients actually achieving things because of a fear-based program that is so subtle that they can't even catch it, we have an opportunity to really identify what that is and turn it around. So I usually ask people like, what's your why? Why do you even want to go into cold water? Why don't you just take medication? Why don't you just change your diet? Why don't you exercise in a different way? Like, what about this is do you think is important? Because this is really going to help people identify that adding this in case unless we don't look at other things, it's not going to solve the things that we want. Like if we're not sleeping, then adding an ice bath is not going to help us in the cellular ways that we want to. So I think that's really important to recognize first. I think the other thing that we can really talk about is that when we look at these hormonal changes, heart rate variability, and I'll say this right off the bat, a lot of the things that we're experiencing with illness is related to breathing, to breath
Hmm.
patterns. So sure,
Yeah.
cold is really, really important, but most people don't know that stress can be created and illness can be created by a breath pattern that is not coded for calm. And again, when we failed a test, when we got broken up by someone, when we failed a grade, when someone said no, when we something really not so great happened when we were younger, when we were teenagers, if we're not noticing in the present moment, if we're not really noticing what's going on, our breath pattern can change. And over time, that can actually just create a low level based constant stress, no matter what's going on in the outside. So the first thing I would say is how you breathe is going to change how you think. How you think is going to be changing what you decide to do in the outside world and how you want to manage stress because we can self soothe with things that don't work so well long term, or we could use something like this that creates a little bit more cellular calm, even though it's stressful. So here's a low grade stress here. A very cold shower, a lake dip, or an ice bath will stress us here. And then when we're done, the body will start to understand where we really want to be. So then stress will actually be down here. Even though this feels calm, this is where the body wants to be. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So we think that this is calm.
And for those of you who are just listening, she's using her hand to put like a level down low and then a level up high and then to regulate. This is why you should always watch on Spotify and YouTube.
Yeah, so cold water is designed to be a stressor so that the body can now find a new normal instead of thinking that low grade stress is normal.
Well, when you think about it, weightlifting, exercise, that's a healthy stress too. It's breaking down the muscle to rebuild it. Microderm on your face, it's breaking down the skin to rebuild it. I mean, there's a lot of great things that are technically stress, but I don't like to even say things are good or bad stress. I used to always say that, but we can kind of put it more into that good area because it's a stressor that you have that actually helps relieve stress in the long run.
Right. And so you have systems in your body that are designed to actually receive that. And so I'm going to say that in a different way. You're actually designed to be doing these kinds of things. We The relaxation level that a lot of us have, and then the non-excitatory, important strengthening components that we don't use are actually making us weaker, even though comfort is really fun. If we spend too much time being too comfortable for too long, then the body will start to get rid of these systems that we need to actually be strong, and then we won't be strong. So think about someone who's lying in bed, or they're not well and they're lying in bed. Their muscle mass will just start to dissolve. That's not the medical term. It'll start to change very quickly, not in a direction that you want. So we need to be using these things so that we can have a minimum level of health. And so there's two things. I'm going to give people a really easy thing to remember to try and help them understand that they can reduce stress instantly with two components. This is so easy. When we understand that we're stressed, we often have like shoulders that are up closer to our ears. It's upper quadrant breathing, it's chest breathing. It's not how, if you look at a baby doesn't breathe like that. How a baby breathes is with their entire body. We laugh with our entire body. We emote with our entire body. So when we start to change those things, everything starts to get really like bunched up and small and compacted. And that's not really how the body likes to express itself. So a really beautiful, healthy breath would start with with using the diaphragm muscles. Those are the muscles that are below your chest, below your rib cage. They're very, very important. Later in life, this is also going to help with any women that will be experiencing incontinence. We want to use that diaphragm because it helps the pelvic girdle, it helps everything. And so that's going to code the blood and the brain that like everything's good. When we're breathing in a way that codes for health, we have the base foundation, the cornerstone for health. When we skip into the present moment instead of thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow or 2 hours or 10 hours from now, we're not thinking about what happened last year, 2 years before, what happened when we were in grade school. When we're in the present moment and when we have a breath pattern that codes for calm, we actually cannot be stressed. It's that simple. When we're in the present moment and when we're breathing correctly and we're not in an emergency, like there's no fire explosions or anything, we actually can't be stressed. And that's kind of cool to know.
That is. And that's what you're doing when you are in that cold water. It's very hard to be in the future other than, oh, when is this going to be over in the very beginning or in the past. And you mentioned Wim Hof and breathing. Those are also techniques which keep you very, very present and help you work on that breathing, which is could do a whole nother podcast about that. It's super, super important. Let's take a healthy 50 to 60-year-old woman who wants to start cold exposure. Oh, nothing that would prevent her from doing it. She maybe works out a little bit, but not enough, maybe has an okay diet, but she's looking to do this. How does she start?
Yeah, I think what we really want to do first is start to get the breath patterns solid because that's going to actually have a massive impact on everything else. So, great. If we're all right, so it's me. I'm looking at a cold shower right now. I understand that my diaphragm needs to be involved to even begin to reduce my stress. So maybe I turn on the cold shower. I'm in a shower. I'm turning it on to cold. I'm outside. I'm looking at the water. The cold practice has already started because my eyes already see the water. And now my brain's starting to process and change because you know what that's all about, right? Like everything's starting to happen now. So I start breathing in through the nose using my diaphragm and a long exhale out the mouth, which tells your system that you're not in danger, even though the body perceives cold water as a little bit dangerous because that's how we're wired. Like ice water, it's dangerous. Hot water, it's like danger. Our body's just trying to code for danger. That's how we default. And so when we breathe this way, the body's like, how come you're breathing like this? Because we're about to go into an emergency and we're supposed to run away from a lion. Why are we meditating? What are we doing? And so this will shorten the stress time so that you can override that system consciously in a way that creates a healthy, safe, self-directed outcomes. Okay, great. So I'm looking at the water. This is about to happen. I'm already nervous. Probably are too. This happens. We can't really change that. It's part of our hardwired system. But when I'm breathing, I notice that I'm starting to calm down. And I'm also saying, I want to do this. No one's making me do this. I want to do this because I'm going to feel so good after. So then I get in and I notice that the cold is now hitting the skin sensors on my body and the alarms are going off. And now I'm starting to get what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This is stupid. I don't want to be here every single time. Kirsten, every single time I get the same languaging in my body and I go in and I breathe in.
And I've been doing it for years.
Right. So I go in anyway, and that breathing will help the body understand that we've decided to do this. And it's like, I see your breathing is telling me that we're supposed to be here. That means that it's my job, body, to manage what we're doing. And so this feeling when you're there for not too long, like under 2 minutes, you'll start to shift into calm. And you're like, well, where'd that come from? I didn't make that happen. No, your body did it. Your body decided to reorganize the internal systems and all the hormonal systems to support you in this moment. That's kind of cool to know. And because we're doing it in a short amount of time, then we can exit and the body's like, oh, okay, you meant to do that. Awesome. And now here's the most important part. We have to come back to a new normal and to rebalance, which is the learning part, the reheating part, your own innate reheating part is the most important part. So the cold is designed to take you off balance, kind of like some kind of unexpected emergency or horrible moment in your life. And then when we breathe correctly, we stay in the present moment, It's bad, but it's not like crazy bad. And then we get out, the body's like, oh, okay. So now we're just going to close this moment with love so that we can get on to the next thing. And so, what I didn't say from the beginning is I've been certified with the Wim Hof method and I've been practicing this for many, many years. And we have exams every year and in quarterly meetings, and there's a ton of science. And why I'm qualified to do this is because I practice so much, because you can't really learn how to do this from a book.
Yeah, no, you have to do.
You have to do it. But also, I have a crazy penchant for learning insane amounts of science because I just love to learn how the body can be so resilient and so adaptive. So that really gets me excited. I'm so amazed at how strong we actually are when we give ourselves intelligent challenges, because there's no way that we can avoid bad moments in life. And it's not your fault when bad things happen. Just be aware and give yourself some compassion and know that we're all human. Life is really unpredictable and sometimes it's really not fun, but you can assign a new meaning to it if you want to. And if you want to, the two components like we talked about is your breath practice, staying in the present moment so that you don't wind up and make it worse and turn it into this like really big thing, which is going to take even more energy to bring you back to your new normal.
So well said.
On Stress, we talk a lot about supporting the systems in your life that hold you up, your habits, your routines, sleep, but that also includes your feet. Remember that song we used to sing, knee bone connected to the hip bone? That's not right, but you know where I'm going with this, right? It's all connected and it starts with your feet. And if you're like me, you probably sacrificed comfort to style more times than you can count. I was able to join Revitaline when I worked at QVC to create really, really great shoes, flip-flops, sandals for you for many years. And now they are a sponsor of StRest. I love this brand. My entire family wears them. It's all about aligning your body from the ground up, literally, but also doing it with super cute styles. I wear them around the house, on long days of filming, even traveling, of course, down at the beach. And the difference is my body feels better at the end of the day. And that's what I want for you as well. Going into a new season, make sure you get yourself new good shoes. And we have a discount for you. Visit wacoshoecompany.com. That's WACO shoecompany.com and enter the code Kerstin, Kerstin 20 for 20% off everything from really cute wedges to boots to sneakers. Get out there and get your sneakers. That's Waco Shoe Company, WACO shoecompany.com and put in the code Kerstin 20, Kerstin 20. So you get 20% off and support yourself from the ground up.
Let me ask you some of the things that I've learned, and then you can be like, yeah, true or false, or here's what we're thinking now. So originally, I had always heard about 11 minutes a week, about 3 minutes each time is kind of ideal, needs to be under 50 degrees. And now there's more research, especially in women and cold, that, okay, that can be a little bit higher, and actually the temperature is more about what is cold to you as opposed to what cold is. And also, once you get in and your body starts to do that, once you get to that calm piece, that's kind of where that's where all the good stuff has happened. So it doesn't have to necessarily be 3 minutes. It's just you want to get to calm.
Right. I love that you said that. Thank you so much, because the goal is to have that moment where you're being required by your body to make a decision about what you're experiencing, right? Right. So we want to make that positive. And so when we're breathing and the body finally gets to that calm, it might be 90 seconds. It might be 2 minutes and 10 seconds. It might be 47 seconds. The body has now said, like, I'm good. I did what you asked. Like, we're now reaching relaxation in this very stressful moment. And isn't that what we want to do really when we have real stress outside that we can't control? Like, the goal for me is how elegantly can we get to that place of calm and self-command without making someone else's day worse and without turning up the drama or the anger or anything else that's not going to serve us long term, because these things are done to help us really question how we feel about those limiting beliefs, I would say. So 11 minutes a week was an inference. I couldn't find the double blind study. They didn't talk about which specific outcomes with 11 minutes. It was extremely generic, which is fine because it's a great guideline. I didn't see any science publishing specifically around that showing like a list of positive outcomes, although of course there's positive outcomes, but they didn't tell anybody what they were. So it's like, okay, I love that framework. It's not wrong, but everyone would say, well, 11 minutes a week gives you all the benefits. And I would always say, like, well, what benefits are you talking about?
Benefits, right.
And people would go like, So sure, it's going to give you some great benefits. But I have to say, like, if you're taking a shower at a higher temperature, just like walking, it's never going to be running. Like, you can't walk and think it's going to be like running. You can't lift a 2-pound weight and think it's going to be like a 30-pound weight. It acts differently on your system. It's just going to. And so when we use that reality to water and heat too, because heat's important, we have to understand that a cold shower has its uses because it's challenging your system to a degree. Ice baths are very important for all genders, and I'll tell you why. And it doesn't mean that we have to stay there. I really love saying, hey, everyone, like, go at all temperatures. But if you're ignoring ice baths because someone said, and I'll get to where we heard it, and I'll talk to you about that too, because it's really important, that we're not actually getting the right hormonal, we're not getting the right triggers so that our bodies can actually have that hard reset that a lot of us could really benefit from. So there's a very, very prominent, very important doctor who trains a lot of females. And there was a snippet that came out on a very famous podcast. And the snippet was, women don't need to get into ice water. I spent a week researching this, and what the bigger conversation was, the athletes that she was training post-training for muscle recovery and post-exercise recovery don't need to get into ice baths right away. Well, of course, nobody needs to. Cold water is fine. So that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be getting into ice water. It means that we shouldn't be getting into ice water directly after a very intense, heavy load workout. So there's a big difference between women don't need cold to women should experience cold at all temperatures, but there's timing that needs to happen. Of course, we don't want to take ice baths, of course, directly before we go to sleep either, because we're going to be like wired. So treat it like exercise. We want to create these stressors very intelligently so that we don't overtrain, because Kerstin, you know that when we overtrain, we can undo all the positive things. So we don't want to run 7 days a week. We don't want to ice bath every day because it's very hard on the system. It can create oxidative stress. So if you're healthy enough to go at those lower temperatures, make it the best minimum effective dose. And if that means cold water with ice in it, that is going to create a very difficult lean-in moment, and you like that, then do that once a week. And if you want to do higher temperatures, I highly recommend doing that too, because the new science is when we go at not ice bath temperatures, which is 5 Celsius and below. And believe me, 5 and 3 are a world of hurt. Like, it's totally different. So I try to not really hang out at those colder temperatures too much, because we only need to train the pain receptors like to, a little bit. We don't need to go to pains to feel like we're really amazing people. Like, just touch it a little bit and get in and get out. And then at the higher temperatures where it's still very challenging, but, ice would melt really quickly. So that would maybe be 8 Celsius, 10 Celsius. The conversions would be, I think.
So 5 is 41 Fahrenheit. Right.
And 10 would probably be about 50. I should have come prepared. I apologize about that.
It's okay. That's why we have phones.
My good friend Jesse Coomer gave me a very easy conversion, and then of course I totally forgot it. So hit all those temperatures if you're healthy enough to do that, because they all have value. You will feel the difference. The most important thing I want to say, everyone, is if you think doing it one time is going to give you everything that you need for the whole week, probably not. You want to look at consistency, and I would say 3 to 5 times a week when you're sleeping well, when you're eating correctly, when you're not dealing with a life, emergency that's, ongoing. So because I have a family member right now who's very, very not well, I'm extremely careful about what kind of added stress that I put on my body. So I'll do a hand immersion, or I'll do just a face immersion, or a cold immersion just with my feet or maybe my lower legs. Like, if you don't like having that feeling of cold water in your body, let the cold water run on your legs or your feet or just your face, because you have mitochondria right near your your forehead and right here in your upper chest, that when cold water hits that for about a minute, minute and a half, you have some mitochondria turnover. And that's huge for body cellular strength and vitality.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing. I mean,
Not at
you
all.
can knock yourself out of, sympathetic just by putting your hands in ice water or putting your face in it like that. You can do those baby steps. We have heard also that you shouldn't be cold plunging. You shouldn't be doing ice baths after a weight workout because it can damage the gains that you made lifting. What are your thoughts on that?
Great. So that study was done with young, healthy people over a 12-week period, and they had to take an ice bath directly after their workouts for every single time. Like, I think it was 3 times a week for 12 weeks. And that's why we saw that degradation.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, when you're doing ice baths so close to that heavy weight workout for that many times, that many weeks, you're going to see a negative change. If you just go to the gym and you're just dying to take an ice bath that day after your heavy weight workout, do it. It's not going to ruin everything, and it's going to be very difficult to say that one ice bath after a weight workout is going to create, it's going to decimate any kind of gains that you have. It's not ideal, and here's the reason why. Your body just went through something very stressful already. It's trying to process and understand with the proteins and enzymes and all the other things that's supposed to happen. It's trying to learn something, right? So we want to give it that time to learn. Then we do something maybe 4, 5, 6 hours later, depending on what podcast you talk to or listen to, and do that then. So the body has these blocks of things. It's kind of like, I don't want to eat and then go running either at the same time. Like, the body has things that it likes to do. So we want to let it do that thing. Then we give it a few hours. Then we let it do something else. Then we do something else, which is why we don't want to be doing this so close to sleep too, because it can really excite the sympathetic system like you mentioned. So when we look at this like exercise, it's like it's really hard for some people to do a whole lot of cardio and a whole lot of weights after you get tired. So that's why we break it up sometimes, or we do it into smaller pieces. And remember, it doesn't have to be a long time. We want to have these things that are short because we don't want to have after drop. Like, hypothermia is real, and we can't control the shivering process most of the time. So the shorter, the better. I just did an event and I saw some people going in for a long time. I wasn't facilitating, but I'm just thought, you go home and you're going to be exhausted the next day, or you might shiver for quite a few hours after. And that just takes all of the fun out of it for me. It's too stressful for people.
Yeah. What about that warm-up process? So I'd also heard, which is kind of how I practice, that it's not a jump into hot water right after. It is a let your body temperature come up naturally. That's my favorite time after a cold exposure to like kind of bask in it. I feel so good. I don't want to jump in hot right away. But what are your thoughts?
Have you ever taken a really cold shower and then turned the water onto hot? No. Try it, everybody, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, send Kerstin an email and to tell us what happens. We don't want to do that because of obvious reasons, like that really hurts. We need phases. So when we're in cold water, and for example, I just had a conversation 3 days ago about someone said, well, what do you mean I don't run into a sauna to warm up? The reason why we don't do that is because the system will vasoconstrict to try and keep the cold blood in the extremities so that we can have some core temperature stabilization. So when we go into a really hot environment, the veins will go like and then open up really quickly, and then we're mixing the cold blood and the hot blood a little bit too fast. And when the cold blood gets to the heart really doesn't like that. We can't have cold blood going into the cardiac tissue. You can create an event. So we want to allow the body to learn how to heat up with the muscles and all the systems on its own. I usually like to say, if you're going into a very, very cold, like say 40 Fahrenheit ice bath for a minute or two, we want to wait and, just like everything else, rest, let the body get its bearings back and process that so that we can close that moment and then get into the sauna and have, another moment. When we start using external heat to rewarm the system, we're missing the learning, the internal cellular learning, and we're missing an opportunity of having, these really beautiful moments. It's kind of like making out with someone really fast. Like, what's the point? Like, we don't want to be, we wouldn't be rushing this.
That. It's the best analogy ever on this podcast.
Take your time. we're
I don't
we're
know why Brad Pitt jumped into my head right then.
we're
Should have been my
building a
husband, but
relationship. We're building a relationship between you and an element, and we need to give it time and respect and some love, and we don't want to be rushing these things. Not at all.
so it with that debate over hot, cold, hot. Like if I'm doing sauna and cold together, or should I just not do sauna and cold together? But what goes first? What goes last?
You can. And so, for general purposes, for just regular everyday people wanting to have fun experiencing contrast, I always like to say, like, finish on cold because it gives your body that time to learn to warm up because that's really, really important. It's a skill in its own. So, that's great. Okay. So, high temperatures, 15, 20 minutes in the sauna, maximum like 1 or 2 minutes in the cold, 10 minutes rest.
Yeah,
If we
that's good.
start with cold and then you want to go to sauna, give it 10 minutes so that body can have that transition period because your blood pressure is going up and down. It's all over the place and you don't want to faint. You don't want to have just too much stimulation. You don't want to have too much adrenaline going. There's just a lot of change. So give yourself some time. If you want to finish on hot, you can, but I like finishing on cold because you get that extra learning, right? So if you want to just do like a cold first and then finish with sauna, give it that space. And then for me, sometimes if I finish on sauna or if I just do sauna, I still want to give my body some time to come back to its new normal. Does that answer your question?
It absolutely does. Yeah, it's fantastic. Going back just a minute, you said, you kind of go until you reach that calm, which is what I tend to do because you've achieved what you want to do, which is the body entering that calm and that clarity and training your brain. However, for the body's benefits, for the things like the brown fat and inflammation, is there a certain amount of time that we should be in the cold?
I'm starting to see now that I kind of touched on a little bit before, but I'm going to expand on that. So when we look at a single use or a single, like, let's just use it again, just like the gym. When we go to the gym one time, we're going to feel good, but we're not going to see major change. Certainly not in the blood, and certainly not with, body composition, which also comes down to hormones and all the other things that you just mentioned. So I think when we start to look at consistency, 2 times a week, 3 times a week, no more than 5 times a week, over time, you'll feel better right away on day one, but you'll start to see that your perceptions to stress are going to change. We like to label things good or bad, but I'm starting to see now that the more people that spend time in the cold, we can choose how to label something anytime that we want to. Cold is neutral. It's neutral until you label it. So I think it's really a great opportunity to ask yourself, like, are you labeling these things to expand your life or are you labeling these things to try and stay safe? And if you're staying safe, there might be an opportunity there where you might be able to use another tool so that you can expand your life to feel more powerful. Two of the most important, most valuable moments I had when I was teaching groups, because we're almost hitting like 2,000 people now. I've led through ice baths, which is a lot, and you start to see patterns. So I'll tell you a funny one, and then I'll tell you one that was so beautiful it almost made me cry. So the funny one was, I had this lady who was very stressed. She was in an ice bath, and she was having trouble controlling her breath, and she kept saying like, "How much longer? How much longer?" And I don't tell people, and then she got really angry, rightfully so, because she was losing control. And so I saw her about a month later, and she said, I know why you told me to do that because last week I went to go get a Brazilian wax and I caught myself trying to ask her like how much longer, and then I thought of you and I said it's going to be over when it's over.
That's so funny. Ice baths and a Brazilian wax.
And then
Similar.
yeah. So now when she goes for her Brazilian or her cold shower, she knows that it's going to be done when it's going to be done. Sometimes we can't control, real world emergencies, and this is going to help us learn how to manage our moods and our conduct when we would prefer not to have a situation. It's going to give us tools so that we can stay in this moment and know that there is going to be an end point at some point, and how can we conduct ourselves in a loving way while this goes on. And let's try to not resist it as much so that we can enjoy maybe some aspect of it, because of course there's benefits to all the outcomes that we choose. The other one that really stuck in my mind, which was, I didn't expect this at all. This lady came up to me after the workshop and she said, A year ago, I was in the hospital with an eating disorder, and today I'm standing in front of people wearing a bathing suit, and I just wanted to say thank you. And I just thought, this is the things that happen to people when they give themselves the opportunity or just give themselves a chance just to see what's about this whole thing. And you never know how someone's going to take it and run with that. After retreats, sometimes people quit their jobs, they leave dysfunctional relationships. We tell people never do anything significant within 7 days of a weekend or a week long retreat because
That's amazing.
you'll come back different.
Yeah, you really, really will. How do you coach somebody through that first when they're, like you said, it starts with before you even get in, you're looking at it and you're going, absolutely not. Like how do these retreats go when you're coaching somebody for the first time?
Yeah, I usually try to find out if they have experience, and then their face will tell me what to say. People will tell you. People will tell you, their body language will tell you, their face will tell you. Sometimes they'll say something. They don't look excited. They don't look happy. They look very, very not okay. And so we usually have a dialogue to try and find out like what exactly is bothering you about what are you thinking? What does this mean to you? Like, do you think you can't do it? Do you think it's too cold? Do you have, a limitation? Are you wearing a bathing suit? You don't feel comfortable. Like what is it? Because you just ate food, you just broke up with somebody, you didn't sleep last night, you have a hangover. There's all those things come into play. And so when we find out what's really bothering someone, we can take a look at that. We can minimize the power of that thing that's bothering that person, and then we can help them understand that all they need to do is just have fun and be curious through this moment. They don't have to force themselves into a 2-minute thing. We don't have to be heroes. It doesn't have to look a certain way. Have you noticed when people get really bothered with their life, they have a picture of how their life is supposed to be, and then they
Hmm.
just do everything to try and make it match that like imaginary picture in their head?
Yeah, that's so
Right.
true.
So when we let go of what it's supposed to look like, we can actually just have fun because it actually really is exciting. It's exciting because you're really awake. You're not thinking about your problems in the ice water. It's a real great equalizer. There's no bank account issues, there's no kid issues, there's no work job issues. It's just you, your breath, and the water. And that's kind of wild. And your world gets like really small at that moment. And when you can breathe through that, you can actually see what the cold wants to show you because the cold will actually show you exactly who you are in a stressful moment. And so we have an opportunity to bring some love and some self like can we just be human? Can we just experience what it feels like to be really afraid and then breathe through that very short moment and then go, wow, like every time like why did I get so stressed? Why did that
Yeah.
thing bother me? There's so many people that my goal is when they hit, their last week of life, they're not reviewing and thinking about all the dumb things that they worried about that actually never happened. That's really what I would love to see happen. And the cold can help us practice letting go of these things that actually don't, really, really matter.
I can't tell you how my life has changed from the years of me doing this. Exactly like you said, that I'd get in water or I'd avoid cold because here. And now that moment of calm comes quite quickly for me, which I'm pretty proud of myself at because I've really learned and my body's learned. But it goes into so many different aspects of life as well. I mean, I feel like I'm more resilient to stress. I can handle when there is a child gets stung by a bee or falls off of something, they might have a broken arm. How am I reacting to that stress? How am I reacting to this conversation with a spouse? How am I reacting to this stressor at work? It really flows into that when you start to control your body's response to a major stress. And I love that you said it should actually be permission to play. Be curious about what you're doing when you're getting into the water, not being so regimented in it has to be 50 degrees and it has to be for 3 minutes. But what am I looking at? How am I feeling? Now I'm in it. What do I see? To get in touch with you. And if you feel like, you know what, I need to get out now, get out now. That's okay.
There's only a really small part of your brain that understands time.
Yeah.
Like it's right here. And so when we place such a massive importance on time, your skin doesn't care about time. Your skin isn't counting. Your Muscles aren't counting. They don't know what 2 minutes means. They know on and off. They know work and not work. They know awake and rest. They know all those things. And so when we keep focusing and hyper focusing on this 2 minute thing or 11 minute a week thing, we're actually taking the fun out of it and making it another have to instead of a get to. And I think
Yeah. It's a get to. I
it's a
love that.
get
It's a
to.
get
And
to.
when people get together and watch someone who's really not sure if they could do it, and then everyone's there supporting them, but they decide to do it, the look on their face when they get out is, you can't buy that. You can't buy that experience. You have to go through it, and they can action that later. They can action. I had someone who just put their arms in, just their arms. This was really a long time ago, and there was no science for this, but it was observational, anecdotal, and it really stuck in my mind for years. And we're still trying to figure out if there's a systemic effect of partial immersion. But she put her arms in, and she was on anti-anxiety medication. And then a week later, she's like, Marie, I felt so good after I ran errands and I got my hair cut, and I never would have been able to. It was so hard before, and I just thought that's really strange. Like, what's going on inside the body with partial immersion that I don't even think should be happening, which is why I'm telling people, play around with it, see what works for you. If you just want to splash your face with cold water and that's you for the rest of your life, like, amazing. Just do that. Whatever you think works for your physiology, whatever you think you can manage. Some people don't even have baths. So I found some stuff online where, like, these two straps and this kind of silicone thing where you can put like ice underneath, and then the shower comes and it's like turning your block of ice into cold water. And that's like really brutal, but it's another alternative, and you can make it whatever you want to make it, as long as you feel like you're challenging yourself in a healthy, loving way without force and without all these like crazy adult rules, keeping in mind with, health parameters. Then, you're good, because we need to play more. We need to get out, and if we have snow, make snow angels, like, call someone.
Yeah.
During
Yeah.
the lockdown, I was so, because Ontario was one of the most locked down, places all over anywhere, which is horrible just for isolation. My response, because I was so frustrated, I started writing love letters and I just started giving them to random strangers as a coping mechanism, because I didn't want to be, it was one of the only things that kept me sane at the times. And I think we're still having burn off from all that, stuff that happened. And I think we need to be a little bit more gentle with ourselves.
It is still, we're recording this in August of 2025. And it is one of the things that I work with so many of my clients with still, the after effects of what they went through during COVID and how that changed their brains and their relationship with other people and the outside world. And it's still a big thing that we need to be aware of. I always invite people to just look at a body of water differently. I was always that person too who'd be like, I'm not getting that ocean. That ocean is too cold. I'm not getting in that pool. Is it heated? That pool has to be at 80 before I'm going to get into it. Now, when I travel, when I go anywhere, I'm like, where's the closest body of water that I can just get into naturally, whatever the temperature is, and also get in touch with wherever I am. Like, that's a whole different discussion, and grounding and, getting close to the earth. But have a different relationship with whenever you look at water.
Yes, and over time, this will also lower cortisol. There's so many. It increases. It's neuroprotective. It helps lower cortisol. It helps stabilize blood insulin. It helps increase sexual function. It helps digest better. You can sleep better. It's complementary to exercises. It helps modulate pain. It helps you build more confidence. It helps you connect to people. There's a huge community of people that are cold curious now that want to support you with this practice. And there's a lot of forums and newsletters and groups.
Cold curious.
Cold
I love
curious.
That. Wait, that cortisol one, though, because I would think it would do the opposite, that it would raise your cortisol.
Over time, it doesn't, because cortisol is it has a down life that's shorter. So when we look at adrenaline and cortisol, they behave differently. They do spike, but the cortisol will actually have I don't want to say half-life, because that's not really accurate, but it will diminish more quickly. And over time, this is really cool. I just learned, because I was trying to explain this to someone the other day. Over time, your body will prefer not to use cortisol as the excitatory chemical in your body over time when you're doing this, because it's going to use adrenaline instead. And I thought, okay, so if that's true, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. Have you read anything or seen anything, and I just heard this, so it might be new, about fasting and cold plunging? And specifically, if it can enhance weight loss if done at a certain time during your fast.
Wow, that's a complex question, and
I know.
I am studying that now. I don't wanna say because I haven't finished really kind of looking at it. I really love some of the things that Dr. Mindy Pels is talking about as far as fasting
Love
goes,
her.
because she's talking
Yeah.
about specific hormones at specific stages of the month. What I will say to people is that there are certain times of the month where you do want to do these more aggressive things. And certainly there's certain times of the month where you want to dial it back as you feel comfortable and not do these things that create stress. You might want to just, chill out and do something else. And I think that's also helpful, but listen to your body. For some people that might work, but I really can't say just yet. I
Yeah,
don't
no, I
think that
think
we
it's
have enough.
new.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing is if you are under a lot of stress, let's say it's a time of grief, you've lost a loved one, or you're just under major, major stress, some will say it's not the best time for you to be playing with cold or being cold curious because it is another stressor. What do you say to that?
I would say if you like doing the cold, absolutely at a higher temperature so that you're not getting that massive adrenaline spike, so that you're not creating more stress in your body. Go for walks, be good for yourself. And the most important thing was I would say you can still practice like a hypoxic hold, like a breath hold, or you can practice box breathing or something that's going to down regulate your stress systems. Even hypoxic holds can be stressful, but it gives you a really beautiful reset. If you breathe enough in the right way, you can start to create some really beautiful endocannabinoids in your body, or some dimethyltryptamine, which are incredibly psychedelic and very helpful. So it just depends on how educated or skilled you are. Some of the people that I work with are dealing with major, especially some of the military people, a lot of challenges. And we want to start at just the most gentlest thing and then test that and see where we are, and then roll back if we need to or add on if we need to. So I would say if anyone's dealing with immediate loss, cold ice is maybe, as from a whole body perspective, maybe not the best thing. It might help you mentally, but physically it might make you more tired. So cold showers might work better, but try it and see how you feel.
But I am very interested in what you said about that one person who did the arms and with the anxiety because there's a lot of women out there who deal with true like anxiety in that I don't want to leave the house, right? An appointment or one thing to do during the day really gets to me. Doing that partial cold exposure is fascinating to me as
Yeah,
a
just
means to help with
hands,
that.
getting the face on the water we have something called the mammalian dive reflex, which will slow your heart rate pretty quickly and
Hmm.
create calm. A lot of people with significant anxiety issues use cold water ice on the face to help calm, not directly, but just ice water or cold compresses to help calm the nervous system. And then hands too, if they want. But again, I will always go back to breathing as the absolute foundation. If you're breathing in a way that is stressful, it's going to be really difficult to incorporate cold showers to create a sense of calm. We must learn how to breathe correctly. So there's a ton of videos online. I'm starting a YouTube page soon. I have breath practices on my website, innerpeaceportal.com. We get together once a month and we teach people how to breathe correctly. It's a new page, so again, just beginnings, but there's a free 10-part series on how to create a kick-ass life, which addresses things like I'm hitting the snooze button, I'm overthinking things, I don't know how to listen, how do I create a morning ritual, all those things for people that are really trying to maybe start again or create a healthy foundation. How do we do these things? And there's always things that you can do. I highly suggest people to start really small with just one thing and then celebrate that, because sometimes just moving the needle half of 1% is all you need to create a win for the day.
Are the other things that you do that are non-negotiables in terms of your health that others you think would be beneficial to others?
Yeah, besides daily breath practice, creating a really beautiful, deep relationship with the sun and other
Yes.
elements of the earth, wind, nighttime, stars, moon, sky. It sounds maybe not interesting, but I think these are some of the most foundational thing, like touching grass, understanding like what goes on with animals and trees, and really connecting with all the elements of nature is a non-negotiable. I live downtown. I live in a city that's got a lot of like Cookie Monster energy. It's very energetic. It's very frenetic.
Never heard that. I love it.
Yeah. And we want to create systems where we can actually have a really great grounding so that people just don't knock us off our balance. So sunlight for sure. Morning meditation out on my balcony is an absolute must. I never leave the house without doing at least 10 minutes so that I can take an internal shower so I can bring my best, most calm self to any situation.
So good. What do you hope is one thing, though, that everybody takes away from this conversation? What can they do today to kind of change their relationship with stress?
I would love people to remember that they have a choice on how they decide to feel about something, even if it's tragedy, even if it's really painful. You always have a choice to find at least maybe a thread of something positive, maybe not right in the exact moment, but give yourself some time to see how it helped you become a more loving person or a more kind person. And I think we always have an opportunity to ask ourselves, wow, am I bringing my best self? Am I conducting myself in a way that someone on the receiving end would consider that to be loving or kind? And it's a great contemplation.
I want to keep you for another hour. You're so good. It's so much goodness. Where can people find you? Where can they go on these retreats that you do?
So people can find me for sure and ask me all kinds of questions. If they want to connect on my LinkedIn page, you can find me at Marie Bodine on LinkedIn. My Instagram is marie.bodine. I usually spend a lot of time filming other people so that other people can see what it's like being led by me through a cold exposure. And then innerpeaceportal.com, I invite everyone to sign up for that free 10-part series. And if you want to connect with me and ask me a question about cold, I'm more than happy to do some research. I only get smarter because people ask me questions, and then I can research
Amen.
it and share that information with everyone.
Yeah, you're doing great work, and we really, really thank you. Thank you for being on StRest.
Yeah, thank you so, so much.
Coming up on the next episode of StRest, you are inflamed. That's the headline. That's the topic. We have Debbie Allen Wright back on the podcast. So such wonderful conversations because she happens to be one of my absolute best friends, but she's also a board certified health coach and just as into medical research as I am. Inflammation is the root cause of just about every single one of your chronic conditions. But what is it? What are some of the steps you can take to get less inflamed? We have mindset discussion, conversation on this. We also talk about mold in coffee. We also talk about creatine, and we talk about all of the things that are working for us right now and how they might not work for you. You are inflamed. Let's take care of it on the next episode of StRest with Debbie Allen Wright.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help others find the podcast and join our community. Follow me on social media at Kerstin.Lindquist for daily tips and inspiration. And visit my website at www.Kerstin-Lindquist.com to sign up for our newsletter and receive exclusive content. The information provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions that you may have regarding a medical condition. The host of this podcast is a certified health coach and medical researcher, not a licensed medical professional, and the content shared does not constitute medical advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we encourage you to do your own research and consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your healthcare treatment plans. Thank you for joining me on this journey to reduce stress and make room for rest. Remember, you're not alone. Keep coming back, share your story, ask for help, and give yourself grace.